leaders in Vietnam. And today, in the morning sessions, we have talked about how young people can do something to raise their voices. And you have seen maybe the frustration in the eyes of the young gentleman from South Korea or from Liberia, who want to know how we can establish these kind of platforms for young people to actually raise their voices and do something about the things that are happening in society. So I just wanted to let you know that there's actually a youth movement in Vietnam right now, and my organization, YBS, is entirely comprised of young college students, and we are actually doing something to make a difference. And I'm actually worried before talking to you because I might be kicked out of this room for shouting. But if I'm still staying here after this speech, I really want to talk to any one of you who are interested in actually making a difference in your own community and to motivate the young people in your own community. Thank you.
Hey, listen, that's great. Thank you. You only have to here for not shouting. What we really want to do is encourage you to exchange. We only had a minute or two to give to you, but I hope that during lunch breaks and etc. other times, you'll be able to engage and share ideas. Who's doing what in South Korea, in China, in Liberia, in Eritrea, in Vietnam, wherever you may be. Talk to each other. Meet the people who are not part of your group. I think that would be a very exciting thing to do. Thanks a bunch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we still have a few more minutes before we begin, and it occurred to me that some of you may not really know the 8 UN Millennium Development Goals. I take it for granted that everybody knows them. So as people are coming in, I made this video. This is a video that I actually just put together, and I did it like a kind of fake movie. This is a little homage to Argo. In that, if you've seen the movie Argo, you know that they're creating a fake movie. Well, this looks like a fake movie title piece at the beginning, and then I just list the 8 and what their targets are. So take a look at it. If you don't know what the 8 Millennium Development Goals are, if you do, keep chatting to yourself. We still have loads of people coming in. And why don't we run that now, Chuma? There you go.
Yin-Chu.
Yin-Chu. Do you take a video just now?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, but I took a picture.
Oh,
I took 2 pictures of you up there, so I'll send that to you.
could you give you the
Yeah.
address? Yeah. Usually it's here.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you.
All right, no problem.
So, hi everyone. I hope you all enjoyed your coffee break. My name is Judith Bueving, and I am the Youth Assembly Program Coordinator. Next to me, I have this wonderful, active, and ambitious young lady, Sejal Hathi, who is the co-founder and strategic partnership director of GirlsTank, which is a hybrid social enterprise designed to empower young women, social entrepreneurs, globally to share their work and bring their ventures to scale. She is also a founding partner at S2 Capital, a social venture fund that invests in equity and debt in young entrepreneurs in low-resource countries. And she has served as the founder and CEO of Girls Helping Girls, an international non-for-profit dedicated to empowering girls to achieve education and create sustainable social change, which she established only at the age of 50. Most recently, Sejal was appointed to the U.S. National Commission for UNESCO, and she is currently a student and global health fellow at Yale. Please welcome Sejal Hathi. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here with you today. This is an incredible conference and platform for all of us to share our vision for shaping a better world, and it is an honor to be among you and work on this goal with you today, so thank you. So, why am I here? I'm here because you and I share a special bond. Together, we form a powerful statistic, a significant number, a new data point in a sea of figures so rapidly expanding that it will soon become almost impossible to keep count. That is, if we ourselves begin to take notice. You and I represent any guesses? What statistic are we? Feel free to chime in. All right, I'll help you out. So all of us are human beings. All of us are young people. The world a year ago reached 7 billion individuals, and of that, 40% are young people aged 24 and younger. But although we are all human beings and we are all youth, the statistic that you and I share is something far more powerful. We are youth changemakers, ordinary people with the moxie to believe that we can change the world and then change it. We are realists, but also dreamers, shamelessly big thinkers, and we are not alone. We are just a few of a swelling movement of young dreamers working worldwide to transform their lives and their communities. Some of you may be saying to yourself, there's no way that I am a grand youth changemaker. I haven't started an organization or launched a major campaign or built a multinational company. But that's okay. In fact, that is perfectly all right, because change-making is a mindset, an attitude, that begins first within our hearts and minds as we simply imagine a better world. If you dream it, you can do it. If you can envision it, then you will achieve it. What does not yet exist is merely something that hasn't been sufficiently desired. But in order to desire something so strongly, you must first believe in your capacity to will it into existence. For me, that conviction blossomed from relationship, a pivotal friendship that bloomed rather strangely from the gloomiest of circumstances, with a girl who had just realized the truth of her own potential. I was 15 at the time and the most unlikely social innovator. Several months before, I had been diagnosed with anorexia, a malignant eating disorder that infects both the body and the mind with the illusion that one is not good enough, thin enough, perfect enough. Upon hearing the news, my whole world came tumbling down. I was forced to give up soccer, dance, many of the activities I loved so dearly in order to focus on recovery. My blood pressure was too low and my vital signs were nowhere near normal. Yet the more that I heard and the more that I learned of the pathetic condition that I had sunk myself into, the more fiercely I persisted in pushing away this part of myself as if it were a despicable creature, a phantom evil that could haunt me but could never touch me. I became incapable of imagining a different reality for myself because I refused to accept my role in the reality I was living. And I think, actually, that this is an issue with so many of us, our ignorance of our own agency, of our capacity to change our lives. But while I was going through these motions, plagued by these feelings, I was lucky enough to meet a girl brave enough to share with me her own story, who snapped me out of my downward spiral and changed my worldview, Rena.
Rena was a writer and a spoken word artist, an entrepreneur and a creator, but she was also a thriver. She had suffered violence and molestation, abuse and abandonment at the hands of her family and a local gang. But she had healed by finally learning with the support of others that a person's challenges are her greatest strengths, and her flaws are only vessels for her potential. Rena opened my eyes to the realization that thousands of girls fall prey to eating disorders, depression, disillusionment every year simply because they lack the ability to recognize their intrinsic worth, and therefore cannot reach outside of themselves to inspire a better world. Rena told me, when you are a part of a sisterhood that loves you, that only wants to see you soar, it is almost impossible to fail. So I made it my dream to build a sisterhood of changemakers that would empower girls to assert their voices and to embrace their collective potential for creating social change. My own challenges became my driving force, just as the grit and fortitude of another young woman formed my inspiration. And just so, Girls Helping Girls, the dream and my very first organization was born, mobilizing and uniting, just a few years later, thousands of girls around the world for a single purpose, peace. You know, it is often said that the dream is not enough. We must bring tangible skills and local knowledge to the table in order to make a sustainable difference in our work. I respectfully disagree, because when I look back at what I had to offer 5 years ago at age 15, I realized it was simply and only a dream. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I needed to launch a website, but had never played with Java or HTML. I needed to open a corporate bank account, but had never even deposited a check in my own personal bank account. Managing the finances and paperwork of a full-fledged organization seemed inconceivable. But I had an idea worth spreading, so powerful and so simple that my team and I made it our project's name, Girls Helping Girls. With this faith, I began to talk about this idea at school and in my community at every opportunity. I placed announcements in the school bulletin, held lunch meetings in the library, and attended local Rotary meetings, Rotary International meetings, that is, to spread the word. Several girls expressed interest, and those that I felt were most genuinely passionate about the issue, I chose to form our core team. Now a team, we began by researching all the resources available to young people seeking to start their own project. We looked online, and one of the first websites we discovered was Ashoka's Youth Venture, a global initiative that engages young people around the world to start and sustain their own social ventures. The website was fantastic. Immediately upon logging in, we were met with a rich repository of resources about how to do everything from draft a marketing plan to engage government officials to open a bank account. Thrilled, we decided to apply to become a youth venture. The application was vigorous but incredibly important in those first few weeks because it forced us to think about all the nitty-gritty details of our mission, purpose, and operational vision. Though half of the information that we included in that application became obsolete within a few months. We changed and pivoted our model multiple times as we better understood the needs of our girls. Completing these exercises enabled us to craft at minimum a prototype of our project and thus pitch credibly and persuasively to potential donors and investors. Helping us with this process was my high school principal, Mrs. Riley. She was an adult mentor that every youth venture team must have in order to complete the application process. She attended meetings with us, signed our bank account with us, connected us with partner organizations, and soon even drove us to local project sites because, of course, we couldn't drive ourselves. And I will say that for any young person, any youth change maker, having a mentor like Mrs. Riley was to me, with whom you can discuss, debate, and reshape ideas, is incredibly valuable because that relationship becomes a tool and a portal for discovering parts of yourself that you never otherwise would have known existed, and that could prove key to your project's success. So for our first program, we decided to launch Empower Girl, a grassroots sister team program partnering groups of girls in the United States with groups of girls in developing countries to engage in cultural exchange, educational enrichment, and social change training. To select those issue domains that would frame all of our programming, we decided to consult the Millennium Development Goals, which all of you are fully familiar with. We distilled and synthesized these goals into 4 Girls Helping Girls global goals: eradicating poverty, increasing access to education, improving health, and promoting peace. And for several weeks during the summer, we researched all of these issues and developed 4 curriculum guides, one for each goal, featuring information and exercises for sister teams to discuss important issues, as well as exchange emails and other notes about their personal interests and hobbies. Packaged with each curriculum guide was a Transform Your World Toolkit, a 7-step how-to guide that we developed for designing and implementing your own social change project. The Empower Girl program, we decided, would be modeled as an interactive pen pal program in which sister teams for a full year focus on learning about a global goal and then launching a collaborative social change project to address that goal. We spoke to sundry organizations from across the country to find our initial project sites, and eventually we were able to secure a reliable base of teams. We launched our first chapter in India, then Ghana, then Nigeria. Then almost serially, we started receiving phone calls and emails from girls in other countries. Girls who were just itching to change realities, but simply didn't know how. And like a viral message, our mission spread and spread and spread until we grew within only 18 months into 38 teams, representing 12 countries and 6 states in the United States. We were ecstatic. We had never anticipated or expected such growth and tremendous response from the world. Girls who are participating in our program were actively engaged with their adult liaisons, and their feedback and evaluations helped us immensely to refine and expand our curricula. Gradually, however, we began to be approached by dozens of girls individually requesting guidance, those who wanted to start their own project but not work within a team. Assembling a swelling network of these individual changemakers, we decided to amplify our organization into a larger movement by founding the Sisters for Peace Network, a social change platform and forum that provides the one-on-one mentorship, toolkits, and resources to girls aspiring to create and sustain their own projects. The network, we decided, was to be led by a cohort of peace ambassadors, successful girl entrepreneurs who could provide targeted mentoring and expertise to those changemakers located in their geographic region. To find our peace ambassadors, we posted an application on our website and advertised through our partners, making our only criteria that they must have launched and successfully led some original venture. We received slightly below 200 responses, and from these we selected an inaugural class of 30 to pilot the program. Over the next few years, as you know, we grew prodigiously, and the Sisters for Peace Network expanded into over 30,000 young girl changemakers from more than 20 countries. It expanded so much, actually, that it formed the basis for GirlsTank, which is the second social enterprise that Judith introduced to you just earlier. An incubator for young women changemakers who've already started their own projects and need the additional infrastructure and support in order to scale them. So the key message here is that with nothing but a fierce passion, ambition, resolve, and compassion, we were able to source, identify, partner with girls from dozens of countries, and we were only 15 and 16 years old. So really, anyone can do anything. In their tenacity and their persistent optimism, these girls who we have worked with have changed my perspective entirely. I learned very quickly in my work that there are no quick fix solutions to girls' empowerment. I remember watching an advertisement on TV a few years ago from a consumer products company suggesting that giving a girl in the developing world a sanitary pad would change her life forever. Her pad was her ticket to an education and a happily ever after. Excited by this message, my team began collecting stockpiles of sanitary pads and toiletries and asking our sites which was in need. A few did take the pads, but I received an email from one of our team leaders in Uganda, Josephine, stating quite bluntly that it was kind of us to ship these boxes of sanitary pads, but what they really needed was a cultural shift, not these quick fixes. She told me, we need to heal fear, grow tolerance. not give the community another excuse to forego dialogue on what it means to be a new woman. And indeed, newer studies are questioning the utility of the sanitary pad intervention. But what is even more significant in this story is the recognition that in trying to empower these girls, we were unthinkingly just reinforcing their silence in society by localizing the politics of education to a woman's body. And instead of examining larger structural forces at play, we were foisting the burden of the problem onto the woman. I am still trying to figure out how best to correct this approach. I don't have all the answers. But what I can say is that I think it is always important to foster dialogue. From the girls' perspective, simply offering them a safe space in which to debate and innovate solutions together can be the best gift we can provide. This came home to me again earlier this year when we led an activity with 3 teams, one from an elite prep school in the United States, one from a girls' school in India, and a third from a rural village in Ghana. We asked the 3 groups of girls, all in our Empower Girl program, all aged 12 to 16, to share their perspective on one scenario. A woman carries a heavy pile of wood on her back, while a man walks behind her carrying nothing. The team in the US responded that this was a blatant abuse of women's rights and that the woman should not be forced to carry the piece of wood. The team in Ghana responded, and of course this is local to and specific to that team, but the team in Ghana responded that carrying the wood was the role of the woman, and so she was simply following the code of her community. And the team from India straightly responded that this showed the woman was a leader in her community, hardworking and strong, and it was the man's place to follow behind to support her if she needed him. Needless to say, both we and all the girls were surprised by both the diversity and the content of the answers. But instead of creating confusion, this opened a dialogue between the 3 teams on what it means to be a woman. It led to them collaborating on a global project to host, jointly on one weekend, forums on this topic that are changing the way women and girls are perceived in their community. All around the world, young women such as these are changing perceptions and uplifting their communities. I've been awed by young women like 19-year-old Michelle from Nigeria, who stood up to decades of tradition in rejecting her betrothal to a complete stranger, and at age 12 led a campaign that rallied over 20,000 girls to prod the local government into finally, eventually, prohibiting child marriages. And I've personally experienced the captivating energy of 17-year-old Larissa from the inner city in Los Angeles, who after years of violence in a gang and emotional abuse at home, finally drew the strength to quit her gang and become an outspoken activist for peace over aggression. These are not just isolated changemakers. Theirs are the stories of thousands, yes, thousands of young women and young men across the globe who are proving with their grit and fortitude that every individual on this planet has something deep and tangible and valuable to offer. And we can empower their narratives by simply offering to listen. These young people's truths will become the world's potential, and it is through their stories that I've gained the courage to share my own. For all of this, my own self-transformation, Girls Helping Girls, dozens of girl chapters, and even my journey here, started from just a single bridge of understanding between my broken 15-year-old self and a wiser young woman peer, Rena. Rena showed me that I was not alone, that my problems were shared challenges, and their solutions lay in collaborative action. This special bond is why I am here today, because my experience has proven to me that when we think about and reach out to one another, we empower each other to realize even our most hidden dreams and aspirations, and then work with one another to collaboratively achieve them. Often the first step to forging our independent vision for the world is indeed discerning the reflections of our individual choices on our larger global community. So please do remember that change-making begins with the self in the heart and mind, It blossoms from relationship and collaboration, and it thrives on persistence, faith, mentorship, and resilience from failure. It is not an easy journey. There are lots of ups and downs, pauses, and pivoting. But then a person does not embark upon this journey for its simplicity. A person becomes a change maker when she realizes that if she is not outside her comfort zone, then she is not learning. If she is not pushing her potential to the limit, then she is not giving of herself fully to the world. And while the thought of such action may sound scary, not seizing that opportunity is even more dangerous, because the world desperately needs you. It needs us to keep moving humanity forward. Thank you. I wanted to leave some time for questions. If any of you have thoughts, concerns, ideas, anything that you want to share.
We have about 10 minutes for questions. Is there any questions from the audience? Just press the button and wait until it goes. Is it good? Okay. I have two questions. One of them is, what were the 4 goals again that you set out to pursue as a group?
Sure. So, promoting peace, improving health, increasing access to education, and eradicating poverty. And all of these goals we distilled and synthesized from the Millennium Development Goals in an effort to simplify them, if you will, in the curricula that we were creating.
Thank you. And the other thing I wanted to ask was, what things did you learn when you were creating this group? Like what aspects of leadership and other things like that?
So one of, I guess, the most immediate lessons I learned was never hire, or very rarely hire, your friends to lead an organization with you. I will tell you, of the 4 girls that I hired, 3 were actually good friends of mine in high school. And I thought this was great. They're passionate about these issues, and I know them, I understand their working style, and so we're going to be able to craft a very compelling and robust, organizational model. But in fact, everyone has their own competing priorities and visions and needs, and it turns out that obviously as the founder, I was the person who was most invested in growing this organization. This was my baby, if you will, and I wanted to make sure that it could reach its full potential. And my friends, although they were interested, were not as committed to the project. And so deliverables were not completed, tasks that they were assigned or that they generated even themselves were not done. And I actually had to fire one of them completely from the organization, and I haven't talked to her since. It's been like 5-6 years now. And so, that relationship was forever severed. And one thing I learned is that, no matter how well you think you know your friends now, and no matter how much you trust them, it's often wiser to seek people from, again, outside your comfort zone to build that organization with you. The other point that I realized is I was afraid that my youth would be a formidable barrier to seeking funding, investment, support from the larger community. But I actually found that it was my greatest asset. And that's because obviously, for one, I didn't know what was impossible, and so therefore I thought everything that I envisioned could be achieved. And secondly, because I didn't have any immediately visible, tangible skills to bring to the table, the only thing I had going for me was my vibrant enthusiasm and, naive in a sense, passion for changing the world, conviction that I could do it. And so companies thought, hey, we really like this girl's enthusiasm. We think that she can do something. I remember when Nike Foundation launched their Girl Effect program back, they launched it in like 2004, 2005, but it really took off in like 2008. And I called the Nike corporate office because I wanted sponsorship for Girls Helping Girls, and I got obviously some random salesperson who thought I was interested in buying Nike shoes. And I told her my story, why I was interested in talking to people at the top to seek sponsorship. She said, wow, that is so inspiring for such a young person. Let me transfer you to my manager. And this happened 7 or 8 times until I finally got on the phone call with a member of Nike's board of directors. Lo and behold, just a few months later, I was at the World Bank launch of their Girl Effect program with the Nike Foundation. I was speaking with the Nike president, Nike Foundation president, the Nike CEO, talking about Girls Helping Girls and receiving a sponsorship in accordance with that journey. And all of that started from this youthful, naive, if you will, phone call to some random salesperson thinking that I wanted to purchase Nike shoes. So your youth can be a barrier at times, but it's also, I think, your greatest asset in terms of your perspective as well as your perception by the larger community.
Thank you so much for that. Is there any more questions from the audience?
I don't know if my button works.
Hello. Thank you very much. We are very alert.
Just a moment. We have a lady here in the middle.
Oh, okay, okay.
You're on
It's
next.
on.
Hi, how are you? My name is Nia Vaughn. I'm an international relations major from Hampton University. I just wanted to say that was such a motivating story, and I had a few questions for you. You kind of covered federal funding and how you just kind of have to go out on a limb, but also how did you balance all the travel with school and also staying in touch and keeping relationships with these girls that you met?
Yes, that's a very good question, so thank you for asking. Just to proffer some context, I'm actually still a student. I think you may have mentioned this at Yale, so I'm still a senior. So
I'm from New Haven.
Oh, you're from New Haven, so we can talk about this maybe even further over coffee someday. But yeah, so I'm still a senior at Yale, and I started this while I was a sophomore in high school, and it was incredibly difficult, especially those first few years, to balance everything with school and also to go and meet several of these girls abroad. My parents are very traditional, very conservative. They did not like me venturing to a different city, let alone a different country, and to work with these young people who were involved in our projects. And that is why I sought an ally, and this came in the form initially of my high school principal, but eventually through several of the organizations that donated to us, I found mentors as well who were great, who agreed to help me, to accompany me on these trips, to come to my house and talk to my parents about why it was important that I do engage with these girls. So, eventually I was allowed to travel, and I'm missing school right now every year at Yale, every semester. I miss, up to 3 weeks sometimes total of school because I'm constantly traveling. And yes, that does get tough, but I think that as long as I told my professors that this was my schedule, would they be willing to let me into their class, they were amenable to the arrangement. And the administration of both my high school as well as my university have been very accommodating, and I deeply appreciated that. In terms of balancing with just schoolwork, that was hard. I will tell you that in high school, my junior and my senior years, I actually joined a program called the Center for Talented Youth, operated out of Johns Hopkins University, and it's a distance learning program that permits students, I think actually from anywhere around the world, to take courses and receive both high school and university credit. And so half of my courses I took online at my own pace through Johns Hopkins, and there are a slew of similar programs out there right now, but that was very helpful. And then I've just learned to manage my time, I guess, accordingly. I'm not able to go to all the parties that I want to or spend as much time with my friends, but I think that's a compromise that you have to make, and that is still nevertheless very rewarding because you're able, and again, to form new friendships, new sisterly relations, if you will, with these young women around the world. So that itself has been rewarding.
Unfortunately, in terms of managing our time, Sejal needs to catch a plane, so we need to walk her out, and we have very little time for lunch. So, many of these conversations will be sort of truncated in that we'll never get as much information as we'd like from all of our speakers and from all of your questions. If any of you have a question, maybe you can come out with Sejal and me as we're walking out. to ask questions, but let me go through a couple of other things.
One more comment.
Okay, so let me get back to you in a second on your leaving. Don't leave the room at the end of this until I give you some instructions.
I just wanted to say that if you do have any questions, comments, if you run your own organizations or ventures and you're looking for funding or support of any kind, or you just want to talk things over, you can find me on Facebook. You guys have my name, I think, in your program packet. If you want to send me a message, add me as a friend, what have you, please feel free. We can communicate on Skype, email, or Facebook thereafter. And I'm also on Twitter. So feel free to find me online, and I'm pretty accessible that way to talk further. Thank you so much, Sejal.
Thank you both. There's so many things I would like to ask too. What does this relationship of girls helping girls and building that community have to do for men? Young men like yourselves out there, or older men like myself? What about young women from the developed world? Judith is from the Netherlands. How do you get involved in this as well? There's so many questions that I know you have, that I have as well. Let's stay in touch with Sejal on Facebook and ask them, or have a coffee with her in New Haven. So for those of you who have vouchers, who have been given vouchers to eat at the UN cafeteria, which is very limited, not all of you have them or purchase them, but those of you who do, you need to leave now and go with the members of the International Youth Council. Most of them have green lanyards, so you'll be able to see them and travel with them over from on the water to 42nd Street. So you're not going to go outside this campus. You're going to leave the building and then make a sort of left and a right and walk along the water. So I encourage the Chinese to get up and leave now, because I think it's mostly you. There are some others who are doing that as well. Those of you who don't have lunch vouchers, please feel free to, of course, leave the area and go back out onto 2nd Avenue. You'll find a lot of places from falafel to Turkish to Chinese to pizza to Subway, all very, very handy. Try to be back here at 1 o'clock for the Resolution Project, little fair that they're doing up in the smaller rooms. Room B and Room C are just upstairs. So come back in here and walk upstairs and you'll find them. And then in 2 p.m. back here, we'll be screening that video, My Neighborhood. Don't miss it if you can, because that is going to be a phenomenal screening, and Judith will be leading that event as well. So please, munch quickly. Don't eat too much. Don't take too long. 12 to 1 is our lunch break. 1, come back to conference room B. And Juma, please put up the slides. All right, thank you very much. Enjoy.